they're incredible. I've watched them on film. They can do some tremendous things, so, when they're out there on the court, and I think people need to pay attention to them.
The final seconds were chaotic. The ball bounced loose, bodies crashed together, and from out of the scramble, Aliyah Boston rose above everyone, ripping the possession away from the Sparks as if the game belonged to her and no one else. With Los Angeles desperate and the clock nearly drained, Indiana called a timeout, and you could feel it in that moment. Like, this wasn't just another midseason win. This was survival. This was a declaration, and it was the Indiana Fever proving they still control their own fate. But the story of that night wasn't just about one rebound or one whistle. It was about how a team with half its roster missing walked into an arena that had humiliated them 3 straight times and left with a victory that might define their season. It was about Boston playing like the superstar she's always been, destined to be. It was about Odyssey Sims, the veteran no one expected to lead the charge, suddenly turning into the closer who saved the night. And it was about a message Boston delivered afterward that had fans replaying it over and over. A simple phrase that carried more weight than any.
Time for her to learn from the sidelines. It's a great opportunity for us to learn offense, right? Move the ball, pass.
Any highlight, next woman up. That message wasn't just words. It was written in every cut, every steal, every shot Indiana made on a night when they had no margin for error. 4 key guards were sidelined, including Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, and Ari McDonald. That's not just depth missing, that's voices missing, leaders missing, players who control pace and spacing. For most teams, a list like that means mailing it in, chalking up the night as a lost cause. But the Fever didn't flinch. Instead, they leaned on something harder to measure than talent. They leaned on belief. The context made the challenge even bigger. This wasn't a meaningless late season game. Los Angeles had beaten Indiana 3 times already this year, each loss piling doubt on top of frustration. The Sparks sat just 2 games behind in the standings, clawing at Indiana's 6th place playoff spot. Every analyst was asking the same thing. Were the Fever collapsing right when it mattered most? They had lost 4 of their last 5.
You guys deserve way more. The attention is on you guys. It's been on us. So what are we doing? But we finally got it done.
The chemistry looked shaky. The margin for error was evaporating. And yet, instead of folding, the Fever answered with grit. No one embodied that grit more than Lexi Hull. She walked into the arena with 2 dark bruises beneath her eyes, the painful souvenirs from a collision with Gabby Williams just nights before. A lot of players would have sat out. Hull didn't even hesitate. She dug into defenders, chased every loose ball, ran through every screen as if pain didn't exist. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was setting a tone. Her presence said everything Boston later put into words. If she could fight through it, so could everyone else. And that's why this game unfolded the way it did. Ugly? Absolutely. The Fever weren't smooth. The turnovers piled up, the spacing broke down, the rhythm was never consistent. But for every mistake, there was a recovery. For every time Los Angeles looked ready to deliver a knockout run, Indiana answered with hustle. Boston described it perfectly afterward. It wasn't about perfection. It was about digging in, finding stuff.
How else am I gonna go 40 minutes and try to box me out the whole time? Like, I even get brain farts during the game, so.
Stops and making plays when the game teetered on the edge. Then, like all great sports stories, came the twist. Everyone expected Boston to dominate, and she did, putting up 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and a career-high 6 steals. That alone would have been enough to carry Indiana, but the game didn't belong to her alone. Out of nowhere, Odyssey Sims took the stage. At 31 years old, Sims wasn't supposed to be the difference maker in a game like this. She wasn't in the starting lineup. She wasn't the name plastered across scouting reports. But on this night, she became the heartbeat of the Fever's offense. With Kelsey Mitchell struggling, making only 5 shots on 14 attempts, Sims stepped into the void without hesitation. She played with the calm of a veteran who's seen every kind of game, but also with the hunger of someone who knows these opportunities don't come often. It was poetic, really. Sims once wore Sparks colors. This was her old team, and you could tell she wanted to remind them of what they lost. She scored 21 points, but more than that, she controlled tempo. When Indiana needed to run, she pushed the pace. When they needed to slow it down, she steadied the offense. Every time the Sparks threatened to seize momentum, she answered. And then, with just 13.6 seconds left, she delivered the dagger. A floater in the lane that dropped clean, putting Indiana ahead for good. It was the kind of shot that instantly rewrites a game's story. The kind of shot that silences a crowd. Later, when the microphones came out, Sims was humble. She admitted she hadn't been shooting well from 3, but never lost confidence. She credited her teammates and coaches for keeping her steady, and then she dropped the line that summed up her whole night. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. That wasn't just her motto. That was Indiana's motto, embodied by every player who stepped on the floor in Los Angeles. And standing beside her was Boston, the anchor, the star, the face of Indiana's future. She didn't just play well, she dominated in every phase. Her points carried the offense, her boards secured possessions, her passing kept the ball moving, and her steals crushed Los Angeles runs before they could begin. But it was her final act, that last defensive stop with 1.9 seconds left, that sealed her night. She read the play, snatched the ball out of the air, and ended the game before the Sparks could even breathe. That wasn't luck, that was a superstar, declaring, "This is mine." Then came the message. Reporters asked her how Indiana had managed to fight through so many injuries, how they found a way when everything seemed stacked against them. Her answer was simple, almost understated: next. Woman up. But inside that phrase was the whole truth of their season. It wasn't just a rallying cry, it was reality. Hull fighting through bruises, Sims stepping into the role of closer, Powers providing sparks off the bench, Boston carrying everything while still trusting those around her. This wasn't a team waiting for saviors, it was a team building trust. In every player willing to step onto the floor, and yet, in the background of all this, there's the shadow of the one name that wasn't on the court: Caitlin Clark. For weeks, fans have waited, anxiously scanning reports about her groin injury. She's missed 17 straight games, sidelined during the Fever's most critical stretch. But on this night, there was hope. Cameras caught her in practice gear, warming up with the team, running through drills, launching threes, moving with more confidence than she had in weeks. It wasn't a return yet, but it was a hint. The kind of hint makes you start doing math in your head about the playoff calendar. Because here's the reality. Indiana has just 5 games left in the regular season. They sit in 6th, barely, clinging to position with Seattle close behind. Every single game carries the weight of seeding and survival. Without Clark, they can survive. Tonight proved that, but with Clark back, they can be dangerous. Remember, before the injury, Clark was averaging 19 points and 8 assists. She wasn't just scoring, she was dictating pace, bending defenses, creating opportunities that made everyone better. Add that version of Clark back into what Boston, Sims, and the rest just proved they can do, and suddenly the Fever aren't just a playoff team, they're a problem. That's what makes this win over Los Angeles so important. It wasn't just about stopping a skid or holding off a rival. It was about proving they can fight and win without their biggest star. It was about showing that the culture Boston described is real, not just a slogan. And it was about sending a message to every other team in the playoff hunt. Indiana isn't fading. They're learning how to survive, how to close, how to win ugly. And when Clark comes back, they'll be even stronger. As the final buzzer echoed and the Fever players huddled around their coach, you could see it in their faces. Relief, yes. Pride, absolutely. But more than anything, belief. Belief that this season isn't away. Belief that they can weather any storm. Belief that when the playoffs arrive, they won't just be participants, they'll be contenders. For Fever fans, this was the win that brought hope roaring back. Boston's leadership, Sims's heroics, Hull's toughness, and the sight of Clark inching closer to a return. It all combined into a night that felt like a turning point, a reminder that this team, beaten down but never broken, is still very much alive. And with 2025 looming, it feels like their story has only just begun.